During our Farm Basics time today, we're going to talk about how deep do farmers plant their seed?
Well, it certainly depends on which crop you're going to put in the ground. And if you've ever done any gardening, you know what I'm talking about. There's some seeds that you want to plant a little bit deeper and some that can be a lot more shallow. For example, small grass seeds. How deep are you going to plant them? Well, you're going to keep them fairly shallow because they don't have a whole lot of push and they don't need to be very deep in the soil. But when you've got some seeds like corn, for example, that has roots that are going to develop above where the seed is, farmers have to be really cautious to make sure it's down deep enough in the soil because they don't want to have their primary root systems above ground.
Yeah, now if you've never heard of something like this before, you've always thought, well, there's the seed and then below that's going to be the roots. Let me explain just a little bit more about what happens with a corn plant in particular. So when that corn seed starts, then there will be a little shoot that comes up, and then above that there will be 5 rings, we call them, of nodal roots. So they will develop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then they're going to fill in below the soil yet above that seed. So the reason why a farmer has to plant at least 1.5 inches deep is if the farmer puts that seed in more shallow for corn, some of those nodal roots could be just above ground, and that's not really a good thing. The idea with roots is we want them below ground, these main roots that bring in water and nutrients, so they can bring in more water and nutrients. So yes, there is certainly a difference from plant to plant.
Well, you also want roots below ground to help anchor that plant and hold it in place. Because you think about it, a corn plant, for example, is going to get 10 feet tall, maybe even more. And if you've got all that above ground portion of the plant, you have to have this great big anchor below ground.
Oh, there's one other thing I would mention when we talk about depth of planting. It's to have consistent depth. So when you are planting any crop, anything in your garden, whatever it is, your lawn even, if you have inconsistent depth, well, one plant will come up before the other, and then that one plant can actually shade out the next one to hurt that next one. So if you want to have the most consistent and best overall stand and health of the plant, yield, everything, you want all those plants to emerge at about the same time, and that starts with planting them all at the same depth.
Well, it also starts with planting down to where moisture's at in the soil. So if you get down to 1 inch or 1.5 inches in the ground and there's some good moisture in the soil, enough to get that seed to germinate, that's wonderful. But let's just say the moisture's down at 2.5 inches, Brian.
Yep. You
should really plant that corn just a little bit deeper so you consistently plant it in where there's moisture. Now, if it's going to rain tomorrow and it's 100% chance of rain for the next 3 days, I'm not going to worry about that so much. But if you're planting in dry land crop ground, so you don't have irrigation, and it doesn't look like it's going to rain in the next week, you really do need to plant it down where the moisture is.
Yeah, so if you're in a garden or in a lawn situation, this is too why we talk about irrigating right after you've done your seeding. We want to have good seed to soil contact and good soil moisture in order to get germination.
So depending on which crop and which seed you're putting in the ground, the seeding depth may vary just a little bit. And also, if you're trying to plant down to moisture to get those seeds off to a good start, you may have to vary that as well. But you want to get the crop off to a good start to try and fight our weed of the week. Can you identify this week's weed?